Hey everybody, I'm Maggie Shane and this is the Bliss blog. This week's post is, the Fae, are they real? And if they are, can we talk to them? The veil between the worlds is thinnest at Samhain, right? Not quite right. The veil is just as thin at the opposite spoke in the wheel of the year, Beltane, which was Friday, May 1st. While the energy of Samhain is focused on death, crossing the veil from this side to the other side, the focus at Beltane is birth, crossing the veil in the opposite direction, and life itself. These energies have been depicted by humans down through the ages as the wee people, fairies, sprites, gnomes, elves, and leprechauns. Tales of these beings abound, especially in Ireland and Scotland, the lands of my ancestors. One of my favorites of these tales is a 1959 film starring a stunning young Sean Connery in his first American film, with Janet Monroe as Katie, whose aging father, Darby O'Gill, played by the unforgettable Albert Sharp, has had a lifelong pissing match with Brian, King of the Fae, acted by Jimmy O'Day. This film was a Disney creation. Connery was panned by the critics as one-dimensional and boring. Can you even? But this was 1959, and the film managed to have the fun-sized Leprechaun King side by side on the screen with the full-sized Darby O'Gill, and it's pretty convincing. Every prop on the film was made twice. Once normal-sized for use in the human scenes, and again at 4 times the size to be used for the leprechaun scenes. But these were often the same scene. The actors playing the little people were simply 4 times further from the camera than the human actors were. And the actors were given other targets to focus on when they were interacting and saying lines to each other so that it appeared they were looking directly at each other. Well, that was a fun side journey. But back to the topic. Are the Fae real? Of course they're real. I have dozens of reasons to say this, but I'll give you the main 2. I'll give you the main 3 because the first one is it's simply more fun to believe they're real than to not. Okay. The second reason. Thoughts are things. Everything that exists began as a thought or a notion, an idea, long before it became a thing. Secondly, I believe that everything physical has a non-physical counterpart or mirror image. It's the spiritual essence of the being. It's in the dimension we don't see, but these beings live right here with us. It's not another world. It's just a different range of vibration beyond the edges of human perception. Kind of like there are sounds we can't hear and colors we can't see. We just experience a small portion of the color spectrum and the sound spectrum, and it's the same way with the energy spectrum. But there's far more beyond the edges of the parts we can experience. Animals can hear sounds we can't hear. A dog whistle is an example of that, or the ultra-low frequencies of some whale sounds. Animals can also see colors we can't see, and they can smell things we can't smell and don't want to.
Phew!
A dog goes outside in the morning and sniffs the air the way we watch the morning news. So it makes sense that they might be able to observe other things that we can't. I lived in the house where my mom had recently died for a month or so, and my dog would constantly sit and stare at the corner where her bed had been, the very spot where she passed. She sensed something for sure. On a deeper level, asking if something is real is kind of the wrong question, because it shows a basic lack of understanding of how the universe works. Since thoughts are things, and since every existing thing began as a thought, and since we are the thinkers, then we don't need to ask what's real. We get to decide. If we believe in something, it's real. It exists. The more we think on it, the more it exists. When vast numbers believe, it becomes commonplace. A human, for example, who could run a mile in less than 4 minutes did not exist. There wasn't one on the planet that we knew of Then one human did it quite publicly, and suddenly it was real. The reason it wasn't real is because most people didn't believe it was possible. The reason it became real is because one person believed it was and made it so. And almost as soon as it became real to that one person, other runners did it too, one after another after another. Nobody could do it forever, and then all of a sudden everybody could. Well, not everybody. And the reason for that is because everyone now believed it was possible. It had been proven. People on the cutting edge, innovators and creators of all kinds, believe in things before they're proven. And then we go out and make them so. The spiritual essences of plants live in the same places as the plants do, but they are not held in place by roots or trunks. They don't actually have a form or shape because they aren't physical. But if you could glimpse their essence, they'd resemble the plant itself, just as the soul of a human would appear as an idealized mirror image of that human. I think it's a little egotistical that we humans tend to think of the spiritual essences of plants having human faces and forms, but they might put one on when they appear for you if that's what you believe. We'd rarely see non-physical beings as clearly as Darby sees King Brian, nor would we be able to sustain the connection long enough for lengthy face-to-face conversations, shared beer, or dancing. As I said, they vibrate beyond our spectrum. But vibrations are a curious thing. Did you ever drive through an area and suddenly have your radio go silent for a beat or two? Or go staticky for a couple of seconds? Or suddenly get very loud just for a moment? Outside forces can boost or block our signal. We should seek out things that boost. Here are some signal boosters. Now, there are places in our world where power just surges. If you are in tune, you can feel them. Some of them are so powerful that if you're not aligned and you spend time there, you rapidly get realigned with your source energy. These places are signal boosters. Sometimes the power is naturally occurring, a planetary vortex. The Red Rocks of Sedona, Arizona are such a place. There's a broad curve on the road into Sedona. Once I rounded that curve on my first visit there, I felt the power like a wave washing over me. The Grand Canyon is another such place, and you can find others anywhere that's unspoiled and clean. It doesn't have to be a famous place. And the more time you spend outside exploring nature, even right around you, the more of these you'll find, and the more powerfully you'll sense them. Ley lines crisscross the entire planet, and they are places of power as well. There are other places of power where the power is built up over time by frequent sacred practices. Your own ritual room, or the place where you routinely cast your circles in the backyard, that will gather energy with repeated use until these become places of power too. Pro tip. For this reason, when you take up your circles in a place that you own, where you want the energy to build over time, never do so counterclockwise. Always move clockwise as you release the circle, just as you did when you cast it, so the energy will remain and build. Take the circle down, you take the barrier down, but the energy itself kind of sinks into the ground and just builds over time. According to every legend, these beings have magical powers. We've attributed to them the power to bless or curse our homes, our gardens, our crops, and our lives. They are the keepers of the pots of gold relentlessly sought by Darby O'Gill. Do we know whether any of this is true? It is if we believe it is. Now here's the thing about beliefs. Some of them are buried so deeply in our minds that we're not aware we have them. Most of us are operating under powerful, limiting beliefs about how much we can expect to earn, what we can expect our lives to look like, or whether or not we're good cooks, for example. Beliefs aren't always on the surface, so we're not always consciously aware of them, but they're always underneath, kind of holding us back. Esther Hicks tells a story about having some trees cut that had grown up to block the ocean view from her home. She set a crew to work removing them and then went out to lunch with a friend. When she returned, her view was back, and she spotted in the middle of it a gigantic tree stump right where she'd told the men not to cut, because it was across the boundary on her neighbor's property. They had cut her neighbor's tree. Well, she felt so guilty. She was prepared to take the neighbor a gift, confess her crime, and offer to pay for the damage. But then she showed her friend, pointing out her window at the stump. And the friend said, "Esther, we only went out to lunch. That stump is huge. They'd have had to drag the tree through the forest to get it out of there, and that would have left a clear trail. Or they might have had to airlift it out of there, but I think we'd have heard the helicopters. Or they would have had to cut it into smaller pieces to move it, but there's no sawdust around it. And the stump's surface is weathered black. No, that tree was cut long ago. You just couldn't see it." Esther, being one of the greatest spiritual teachers of our time, immediately wondered how many other things she was convinced were true that were actually just misperceptions like that. You move things around a little, you see things from a different angle, and you start making interpretations that aren't always so. So we have beliefs we don't even notice. Seems to me it might be a good idea to make friends with the spiritual counterparts of our nearby flora, the Fae folk, just in case. How to please the Fae. Well, remember, these are nature spirits. So keep your environment clean and free from human-made litter. If you have a lifeless tree and it's not posing any danger to life or property, please leave it alone. It's supporting an entire universe of life inside, and dead trees continue to serve the rest of the forest long after they've gone. Even stumps communicate through their roots and the mycelium network created by mushrooms. Also take care with piles of deadfall in nearby woods. They often become homes for foxes and other little creatures. So if you disturb them, you could unhome them and put their lives at risk. Do not put chemical insecticides or fertilizers on your lawn or garden. Use compost and natural things. There are also non-toxic plant soaps you can spray on the leaves of your plants that make them less tasty to the insects without poisoning anybody. Traditionally, offerings to the Fae included milk sweetened with honey. That was fine back in the day when the milk came from your own cow, who you loved and cared for like a part of your family, and maybe honey from your backyard hive. But you can trust that the Fae would be violently offended by offerings of milk taken from captive cattle who never walk on grass or step outside in their short, terrible lives once they begin producing milk. There's a huge difference in the energy. So the notion behind leaving a food offering for a non-physical being is not purely symbolic, because again, everything physical has a non-physical counterpart. So the physical being might consume somehow the non-physical counterpart of the offering. This is all about the energy. Offerings of milk and honey are a clue to us that, just like us, the Fae enjoy fats and sweets. So a sweet treat, like a homemade cookie or brownie or a slice of cake or pie without any animal ingredients or heavily processed foods in it, would be a preferable offering to leave for the Fae. It's also the healthiest way to eat, folks. Wind chimes. The gentle tinkling of wind chimes is said to be a favorite of the Fae, so maybe leave a tiny set in the woods or in the gardens where they are. Not a big loud set, though, that might disturb the local wildlife, but a small set of chimes with a gentle, soft sound in a place where it's not too terribly windy would be loved. Shiny things. Crystals and gems come from the earth, but most of them don't come from the earth looking all sparkly. Some do, the amethyst, some of the quartz do, but usually they have to be cut or tumbled or polished, or all three, to become the precious, shiny pieces we collect. So when we return one of them to nature, it's different. Returning such gifts to nature seems like it would be pleasing to the Fae. Try not to slaughter their physical counterparts by cutting down the trees and clearing the brush. Let the woodlands you're responsible for remain natural and wild places, removing only invasive species. Cultivate flowers, plants, and pretty places. Grow flowers, vegetables, and herbs. Create beautiful spots around your place with sustainably powered or natural waterfalls or fountains. Even tiny solar fairy lights might appeal. Decorate with depictions of gnomes, fairies, and sprites. They'll probably get a kick out of that. A tree tale. I got a very clear message from the towering pines out back long ago when I had a hot tub, which I do not have anymore. The water had to be chlorinated, of course, so its steam had that bleachy smell to it. And one day, when I removed the lid and the strong smelling steam wafted, I felt a wave of, ew, that smells awful. And I agreed. I was pretty sure that was coming from the tall pines. It was just a feeling. I understood in that moment that the smell of the chlorine was probably unpleasant and maybe harmful for the trees. They do breathe, after all, giving us oxygen, and I'm giving them back chlorine. That's not very grateful. Well, I drained that hot tub and I never refilled it. Sold it shortly thereafter. Pro tip, we have to live our values. We can't say we love nature and deliberately harm it. The teachings of the sages tell us that the worst thing we can do for our alignment with well-being is to believe a thing is wrong or bad for us and yet continue to do it anyway. That causes huge blocks in the flow of the energy from source. When we know better, we have to do better. If we don't, the very condition of knowing better and not doing better splits our energy, and that can be painful. Unless we change course, the tear will get bigger and we will manifest problems related to the thing we're doing that we feel in our hearts we shouldn't do. The problems will continue to get bigger and bigger until we have no choice but to stop doing the thing we feel we should not be doing. That is one of the less pleasant ways thoughts become things. If, for example, a person learns that eating saturated fat directly causes coronary artery disease, and they believe this information as it has come from countless medical experts for decades and studies have backed it up, and knowing this, they continue to eat saturated fat anyway, then they get heart disease. This is kind of a microcosm of parts about the law of attraction that aren't as much fun, isn't it? If I know better than to do a thing and do it anyway, there will be a manifestation that I will not enjoy. The Fae are more impressed with humans who do the right thing once they finally figure out what it is. Fae communication. I don't think this is as complicated as it at first might seem. The non-physical can feel our intentions and our energies, so there's no language barrier. They sense who we are on the deepest levels. After all, they live in our immediate environment, surrounding us, silently witnessing our entire lives. There are even said to be house fairies who reside indoors. Sidebar, it shows a huge ego and a really deep lack of understanding to depict house fairies as slaves. Try that just once. Then watch a tree fall on your house or lightning strike it or termites invade. You're not apt to have the Fae hanging out in a dirty house. Cluttered is fine. If you fill your place with pretty things, hang a crystal prism in the sunny window and let it cast rainbows around for them to ride and play beautiful music and burn incense, they are going to love hanging out with you. We communicate with them by our attention to them. If we're thinking about them and making some small effort to please them, they understand that. When we speak our requests for blessings and offer them something in return, they enjoy that too. Who wouldn't like their power to be so valued? and appreciated and acknowledged. So don't be afraid to talk to the unseen energies in and around your home. Tell them your hopes and dreams and goals for the place and its surroundings. Treat them like invisible members of your family, and they will treat you the same and then some. Ever mind the rule of 3. 3 times what thou giveth returns unto thee. Now that Beltane has passed, I intend to spend the entire warm part of the year getting to know the invisible beings who live all around me. I'll report back on any surprise boons that show up. Speaking of Beltane, I did a social post about the holiday on Friday because I couldn't just let it pass. And here is what it said. Blissful Beltane to one and all. It's the season of fertility, the time to add magical miracle grow, not the real stuff, it's a euphemism, to all your projects, especially artistic, creative, nature-related projects like gardening, landscaping, creating beautiful things and art, and all things that beautify. It's the season of the marriage between goddess and god, where the goddess is the earth and the god is the sun or sky. The maypole is the phallic symbol that impregnates the earth. She then gives birth to corn and grain and all the crops we enjoy. Dancing around the maypole grants fertility for the coming growing season and boosts our own growth and fertility, both literally and figuratively, so be careful. All the animals become a little twitter-pated in the merry, merry month of May, so that romance energy is very strong. You should probably read one of my novels this month. Here's a wonderful prayer from ancient Sumer that I think fits throughout the planting, growing, and harvest seasons. Inanna, your breast is your field. O Inanna, your breast is your field. Your broad field pours out grain. Your broad field pours out fruit. Water flows from on high for your servant. Bread flows from on high for your servant. Pour it out for me, Inanna. I will drink all you offer. See you next week.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Speaking of the Fae, they are now available in print in my series, By Magic. It is 4 books. It is complete, and it is now, for the first time, on sale in paperback everywhere books are sold. In books 1 and 2, Bridget and Bryden are twins, half fae, half mortal, and heirs to the throne of Rush. But when the Dark Prince usurps their parents' rule, the babes are hidden in the mortal world. One has become the Dark Prince's captive. The other knows nothing of what she truly is. These 2 women must find each other again, learn of their own true nature, and return to Rush to reclaim the throne and save the kingdom. Collect all 4 in paperback with their stunning cover art. And I will also leave links in the show notes to buy the paperbacks as well as the ebook links. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.